Welcome back to the Dinar Chronicle, your trusted source for the latest developments in global currency, revaluation, exchange logistics, and banking intelligence. Tonight, we are breaking into your schedule with an urgent update that directly affects Iraqi Dinar and Vietnamese Dong holders across the United States. For years, the question on everyone's mind has been, where will the exchanges happen? Who will handle them? And when will access to verified redemption centers actually begin? Well, after weeks of quiet movement, confirmations are now surfacing from multiple regional banking sources indicating that verified U.S. exchange bank locations have finally been identified and positioned to handle currency holders. This is not speculation pulled from thin air. These details are coming in real time from people on the ground in banking networks who have been preparing infrastructure for weeks, if not months, behind closed doors. What makes this report so significant is the timing. Over the past month, we have seen increasing signals from the Central Bank of Iraq, tied closely to announcements from the Ministry of Finance in Baghdad, suggesting that the ongoing monetary reform project is entering its final phases. As oil revenue stabilization takes hold, Iraq has been under pressure from the International Monetary Fund and the U.S. Treasury to normalize its exchange rate and stabilize its banking environment, with the return of liquidity to state banks and the introduction of new digital payment rails through Iraq's partnership with international fintech providers. The ground has been laid for what insiders are calling the necessary preconditions for revaluation. Parallel to these developments, Vietnam's steady economic expansion, bolstered by semiconductor investment and manufacturing contracts, leaving China, has put the Dong in a stronger position than at any time in the last decade. Both currencies, long considered speculative holds by retail investors, are now at the forefront of serious institutional preparation. The real shock tonight comes from information filtering out of the U.S. banking sector. According to verified sources within mid-tier national banks, dedicated exchange centers are not only being discussed but have been staffed and quietly tested. These are not frontline retail counters where you would normally deposit a paycheck. These are secure, appointment-only offices designated for foreign currency exchange, separate from everyday customer traffic. Banks have been instructed to prepare high-security rooms with specialized authentication equipment for foreign notes, especially dinar and dong. We are told that blacklight scanners, watermark detection, and advanced serial number tracking are already installed in certain test branches in Dallas, Houston, Atlanta, Charlotte, Miami, Chicago, Denver, and Phoenix. These are major metropolitan corridors with regional Federal Reserve processing access, which is consistent with the requirement for immediate liquidity transfer once exchanges begin. Another key piece of intelligence is the staffing pattern. Multiple contacts have indicated that specialized private wealth managers are being briefed behind closed doors on how to handle high-volume exchanges. Some of these managers have previously worked with clients in precious metals or private placement, but in recent weeks they have been brought into new confidentiality agreements covering foreign currency transactions. These agreements specify that managers are not to disclose client exchange rates, appointment times, or logistical details under penalty of termination. The fact that this level of preparation is happening tells us that the infrastructure is real, tangible, and much closer to launch than most outside observers would expect. Let's talk about the verification process, because this is the question every dinar and dong holder asks first. How do I know my notes are legitimate? And how do I know I'm not walking into a scam? The banks preparing to conduct these exchanges have installed what are known as Delarue machines, high-end note verification devices capable of authenticating currency against global central bank standards. Every dinar or dong note will be scanned, logged, and digitally confirmed against serial number database. This ensures two things. First, that counterfeit notes are immediately rejected. And second, that the source of every exchanged note is recorded for compliance with anti-money laundering regulations. Once authenticated, the client's exchange is tied to a digital contract that locks in the rate at the moment of transaction. That rate, we are told, will not be disclosed to the general public in advance, but will be provided on site at the time of appointment. This matches previous guidance from Treasury-connected advisors, who have long emphasized that the actual exchange rate is considered sensitive information until the moment of execution. What we are also learning tonight is that exchange locations are not being concentrated in only the largest banks, while JP Morgan Chase, Wells Fargo, and Bank of America have all been mentioned in prior reports. What seems to be unfolding now is the involvement of secondary regional institutions, particularly those with strong ties to Federal Reserve branches. Fifth Third Bank in the Midwest, Regions Bank in the Southeast, and even smaller but federally chartered banks in Texas and Arizona have been included in preparation cycles. This is a critical detail because it broadens access for currency holders who are not based in New York, Los Angeles, or other coastal financial hubs. It suggests a deliberate effort to ensure nationwide coverage and avoid a bottleneck that could cause chaos during the exchange period. Another element worth emphasizing is the appointment scheduling process. Sources are describing a system in which currency holders will not simply walk into a branch with their notes. Instead, a toll-free number or online portal will be activated once public release is authorized. This portal will allow holders to register, verify their identity, and be assigned a specific date, time, and location for their exchange. The emphasis here is security and order. Banks want to avoid lines of people standing outside with envelopes of dinar or dong, which would create security risks and negative media attention. By handling exchanges by appointment only, they maintain discretion, protect client safety, and ensure that staff are properly allocated for each transaction. This model also allows for individualized discussions about structured payout options, tax implications, and wealth management services, all of which are expected to be offered on site. Now, the urgency of this alert cannot be overstated. Over the past 72 hours, we have received word that final compliance audits have been run on multiple exchange centers, with staff instructed to be on standby starting next week. That does not mean exchanges will open tomorrow, but it does mean that readiness is now at peak levels. Historically, these kinds of movements within the banking sector are only ordered when leadership expects imminent activation. To put this into context, no bank would allocate manpower, install expensive verification equipment, or restrict staff under non-disclosure agreements, unless they were preparing for a near-term event. In the language of finance, this is called opportunity cost. Banks do not commit resources without clear expectation of return. This brings us to the international picture. In Iraq, the central bank has continued its campaign to de-dollarize the domestic economy. Over the past month, they have announced restrictions on dollar withdrawals and increased penalties for informal dollar trading. At the same time, they have expanded digital dinar services for payroll, pensions, and government contractors. Analysts are interpreting this as a sign that the Iraqi dinar is being positioned for greater legitimacy, both domestically and internationally. When a currency is stabilized internally, it sets the stage for external revaluation. Similarly, in Vietnam, the state bank has been quietly reducing its foreign reserves dependency on the dollar and increasing holdings of gold and regional currencies. This is part of a broader strategy across Asia to reduce reliance on the US dollar as the sole trade settlement currency. These macroeconomic shifts dovetail with the preparations we are now seeing in US banks. So, where does this leave currency holders tonight? For those holding Iraqi Dinar or Vietnamese Dong, the critical action right now is to be prepared. That means ensuring that your notes are organized, properly stored, and accessible. It also means being cautious with information. As we have warned repeatedly, scams proliferate at moments like this. No legitimate bank will ever call you and demand that you hand over your notes outside of a secure exchange center. No legitimate exchange will require you to wire funds in advance. The only recognized process will involve verified bank locations, secure authentication, and contracts executed on-site. If you are approached with anything outside this model, walk away.